Here we are, most unusually on a Thursday, doing the Podful of Saints with a singing Lee Wood there. This is on Thursday, 29th of August, 2024. Why are you so cheerful, Lee?
They're not to love. I get to spend the next hour wittering away the world with you two fine gentlemen. The sun is out, got a beer in my hand. Let's go.
Well, the other fine gentleman is the unfortunate Jake, of course, whose life reached a low point when he went to see Taylor Swift the other Saturday, and things have got much better since then with the Chesham and Dorking games. How are you doing, Jake?
Yeah, happy bank holiday weekend, everyone. I hope
How long do you
really
reckon?
enjoyed it.
How long do you reckon the Taylor Swift is going to be sort of, eked out for, Jake?
Quite a while, I fear.
I think so. I think so.
Deservedly
Quite right as well,
so,
to be fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, Chesham United. Jake, you and I were there. Nobby made a couple of changes. Out went Ben Smith. We thought he was dropped. He's actually injured. And out also went Gio Rasulu, so in came Tafari Moore, returning Tafari Moore. Come on to him in a second. And some bloke called Sean Jeffers up front. Now, Jake, I thought we started really well. First 10 minutes or so, we were passing that ball around really nicely. And it was positive. Wasn't this rubbish in their own half. We looked like we were going to put them under a lot of pressure, create a lot. We did nothing after that. Absolutely fell apart. And it was terrible. I don't know if that coincides with your view.
No, I agree. I thought the first 10 minutes was really good. Then it all went wrong, didn't it? First 10 was all right. We controlled the game. And then the Chesham goalkeeper went down with what looked like a very nasty injury that came out of nowhere. And turns out he was fine. They all did their little huddle. Chesham changed their shape slightly. And we just couldn't cope with it. I don't know what happened. Tactically, we didn't respond. I don't know exactly what it is. I think they went to a 5 at the back from what I saw. And then after that, we just lost control of the game, and Chesham probably deservedly took the lead, didn't they? And then we did respond. We scored, and Sean Jeffers, get him on the pitch. He'll score goals every now and then. But then the second half wasn't really anything to write about, was it either?
Second half was terrible. I don't know what was said in the dressing room at half time, but it totally demotivated the team. That may be wrong, but that's the way it came across from people looking on. In that first half, you would have noticed Tafari Moore absolutely roasted Lewis Rolfe, gave him a torrid time. Second half, we didn't pass to Tafari. What was that all about?
I'd love to know. Yeah, I thought Tafari played really well that first half, and sort of 15, 20 minutes in, a couple of fans around me said, that fullback's done. Tafari's got him every time, just go down that side. And we just didn't use it enough, did we, unfortunately? And we talk about that second half. I think actually both teams were pretty poor in that second half. Chesham were probably better, but it wasn't exactly the most inspiring of games overall, was it? And it looked like a battle between two teams that maybe don't look like either of them will be pulling up many trees this season.
Goodness knows how we went in level at half time. As you say, Sean Jeffers' 108th goal after Ken Charles had a shot well saved by Benjamin Good. Nothing created for them afterwards. I forgot where I was going this, but that second half, people were moaning about substitution. It was almost total silence when Sean Jeffers went off. Sam Meeks came on. The only silence was broken by 1 or 2 shouts of "What the hell are you doing, Nobby?" along those lines. Cleaned it up a bit. Because Sean Jeffers, he was quiet, but as he showed, quiet, but he gets goals. We haven't got anybody else in that team that can do that at the moment.
No,
it just seemed incredible, didn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously the goal, Ken Charles did the hard work, but Sean was there. And a couple of fans said to me, that's the whole point of playing 2 up front at times. One man's doing the hard work, getting the shot away. Then conveniently, there's another bloke there on the penalty spot to actually poke it home when it comes to him. And it worked. And, talk about pulling off Sean Jeffers. Did Ken Charles do much more really throughout the game than Sean to actually stay on the pitch either? And Lee, you've mentioned this quite a lot over the last year or so of the Sean Jeffers debate. When teams see either Sean Jeffers on the bench or being pulled off, it gives them a bit of an impetus, doesn't it? And again, when Chesham probably saw Sean Jeffers coming off for Sam Meeks, who's not exactly done much for City so far this campaign, they're probably thinking, right, we've got a chance here. And it proved that way.
Yeah, mind you, that said, our first half, as we said, was our better half, but Chesham should have gone in for at least 4-1 up. They had some really good chances. They could have put that game to bed by the interval, but we didn't. And we have seen the first goal. Nathan Minhas headed in. He's turned out to be a good signing from Slough Town. It was an open play. ball comes over the top, all the space in the world. What were we doing? We only had 2 players in the box. We couldn't pick them up. So don't bother flooding our box when we're defending corners. We can't pick players up in open play.
That kind of happened at Hornchurch as well, didn't it? Ball over the top, caught
Yeah.
out again. Yeah, I mean, before that, you mentioned Chesham's amount of shots they had in the first half, and that was really noticeable throughout the game, actually. Less so in the second half, but how willing Chesham were to just get shots away. They weren't always great shots. They weren't always... Quite a few of them were actually quite speculative, especially from a certain former Saint Mitch who looked quite keen to score, but they were getting those shots away, even if it was a half chance or a 50-50, getting attempts, putting them away, and then seeing what happens. And it was really different. We had 2 shots. I think I made it in the whole game pretty much on target. Compare that to Chesham, they had a number more chances and opportunities than us.
Mitch actually played quite well, and shame that volley didn't go in, because it would have been a great goal. But we know he gets goals in clutches, and there's quite a spell, and this is one of his quiet spells. But why they brought him into the play? Why they brought Minhas into the play? Totally different to the way we used our front people. We just created nothing for them, and we bang on about it. The midfield, it just isn't firing. It's not creating.
No, and without a midfield, that's quite a key part of the team, isn't it? And I think that is where a lot of our issues are stemming from at the minute. We've neither got control of any of the midfield in any of the games we're playing at the minute. We're also not doing anything when we do have the control. We're not really creating anything. The players that should be creating things aren't. Don't know what's going on there. And unfortunately, I think the balance in that centre of Payne, Deadfield just doesn't quite look right for me.
No, I think few would argue. There we go. As for Chesham, I had a quick chat at the final whistle with Callum Adebiyi. Good to see him back down there. A former manager said, I don't know why you let him go. He's just solid. He's dependable. And we could do a few of those at the moment, couldn't we? And of course, Mitch was Mitch. Played quite well. But Chesham, they're pretty confident they're going to survive. I think they've only had 1 win so far. They might just finish just above it. You agree?
Yeah, when you've got players like Nathan Minhas up front, you've got a decent chance. We know that, especially with Mitch alongside him. And I spoke to Mitch briefly after the game, and he said, he said that both teams will be fine. But his reasoning for Chesham was just because of the amount of chances they created and the chances they have been creating so far this season, which maybe is not quite the story we've had so far. But he wasn't concerned about us, so that's filled me with some confidence, which is good.
Well, you can come in on this, Lee. Last week I was speaking to someone who's well versed in non-league management, did it for years and coaching and whatnot. He said, and it backs up what you've always said, Lee, about us having a good side on paper, good summer signings. He said, the players you got there, they're going to come good. He said, your problem was pre-season, only having 5 games and not playing enough minutes. Only 5 players played a full 90 minutes in any one game. No one player did it twice. And he said they didn't bond. They didn't have a chance to bond properly. And we're still playing catch up with that. And for David Noble's sake, you've got to hope he's right.
Yeah, I think Jake had 4 key words there. Said tactically, we didn't respond. And I think what's happened is it's taken us to the 5th game now for Nobby to look at the formation, tweak that a little bit, and the personnel. And we'll get on to sort of Dorking shortly. But all of that homework should be done in the summer. You know, we know that Nobby likes to play a certain way. He's got a certain formation. And we've criticised him, rightly or wrongly, about his lack of plan B. Now, when he does implement that plan B, it's going to take a little while to bear fruit. And I think that's really what pre-season was for. I think we're having to learn on our feet. Some of the newer acquisitions are certainly having to they're not really finding their true form at Clarence Park yet. And I do believe that will come. My only concern is the fact that it's taken us until now to really address it at all.
I'm not sure it is addressed. Going to be a case of wait and see, I think. Right, we're ready to move on to the Bank Holiday Monday down in the foothills of the Surrey Hills. Beautiful part of the world, lovely town, Dorking. And then you come to Meadowbank. Well, we'll actually talk about the ground later on. Got some stuff on that. And City supporters, obviously, has kicked off a little bit. As for the match, 4 changes. David Long King was missing. That was kept quiet, wasn't it? Mustn't give supporters news due to his partner giving birth, if that's happened. Hope all's gone well for them. Joe Partington out injured, Tafari Moore injured, and Zane Banton dropped to the bench. But Tafari Moore thing. Tafari Moore on Saturday. I left the ground just before 5:30. He was still lying flat out on the pitch with the paramedics. There was no update anywhere by the club as to his condition. So people left the ground, seeing Tafari on the moor. Not, I don't know. Didn't have to wait for a helicopter to come take him away, aliens or ambulance or God knows what. But no news at all. Did you hear anything, Jake, or was it just suddenly, oh, he's not playing Monday?
No, we after the well, maybe quite a while after the game, probably more towards 6:30, we bumped into a St John's ambulance person, and they said that Tafari had eventually been able to get off the pitch himself and was going off. I think it was going off to hospital himself, as an ambulance hadn't come. So yeah, not the greatest communication. I think it's worth as well. We didn't have a David Noble post-match interview, did we, after that game? I presume because of the Tafari Moore situation. But yeah, like you say, Dave, your point about communication, I think, is one that's worth it there. Right.
Well, they put it down in the post-match interview Monday due to technical problems on Saturday. Well, that's rubbish. If you've got technical problems, you've got typewriters, you type up what Nobby says. I mean, Clark, if you take away his finger in the ear, his scratching of a chin, the ums and the ahs, there's not that much there to write, really. It's not going to take anybody too long. And also, they could have talked about the Saturday game along with a Dorking interview to just dismiss it. And John Lapp's emailed to me about it. He put it as their worst performance since Forge United in 1991 or 19, whenever it was. To just dismiss it like that, just isn't on. Right. I did get on about 10 players missing. Ones came in. Dan Barry came in. Iffy Allen came in. Gio Rasulu and Kieran Gauthier. Probably wish he hadn't by the final whistle. What do you make of it, Lee?
I thought there were positives compared to what I've seen previously. That said, the end result was still the same. I just feel there's a missed opportunity there. I think we gave Dorking far too much credit. But they are the title favourites, or one of them. And I thought that first half in particular, I thought we were very, very good. I think we could see the benefits of playing 2 up top now, especially if you look at our goal. The ball into Jeffers, the layoff, Rizzulo, the link-up play with Childs. He then fed what's his name? Yes, him. And but that finish was the cherry on the cake. But I think what happens there, playing that 2 up top, it frees the midfield. It just, they're not smothered, and they're able to sort of do that link up play. And I think hopefully that bears fruit going into the latter parts of the season. But positives aside, there were still some mistakes there, and I think we came away, Jake, from the game on Monday, believing that we should have got something.
Yeah.
There were 2 mistakes there, and there were mistakes as well with the goals. MJ, I thought, was slow to react to both of them. Second one in particular. But overall, Tavs, I mean, yes, Dorking are a good side, and they really turned the screw, even being a man down against us. It was just so frustrating because it's what could have been as opposed to what actually happened.
Jake?
Yeah, I think it's actually quite a complex game to look back on, isn't it? In the sense that first half we played really, really well. I thought we limited their chances, and their balls into the box from Dorking were frankly dreadful for most of that first half, I thought. And I think part was out because of the way we played, the way we defended. We restricted them to areas and shots and crosses that didn't work well, and MJ did well to come and claim them. And the goal was brilliant. I thought we deserved it. And after that goal, we had chances to get a second and a third. I think Ken Charles particularly, he had one where he turned in the box, got it on his left foot clean, not his stronger foot, didn't work. And then second half, just before their equaliser, he had one where he went for a lobbed shot that hit the side netting. There was chances there because we were playing well. But second half again, we just lost our way, didn't we? Similar in a way to Chesham. But there were positives. We don't want to be overly negative about Monday for me anyway.
Oh, I can't go home then. Right, Ken Child, we like Ken Child. I think he's gone down well with supporters, but those two misses, they were dreadful. In that position, centre forward not hitting the target with either one, that was inexcusable. The first one was on his weaker foot, and the second one is on his good foot. He didn't even hit the target. They were poor finishes, and they cost us in the end. They certainly cost us. I think you're giving too much credit for us our defensive work. Poor crossing from a Dorking. They were just poor. They were showing, and we follow suit. We'll come on to that later on in a little discussion in the dressing room. Crossing from both sides was poor. Well, I agree we battled well, but we created little. Those two chances side, then what else do we have? Zane Banton had a shot blocked. Gio Rasulu totally scuffed one well wide late on. And that was pretty much it. We just couldn't create, even when they went down to 10 men. And this is just a recurring theme, isn't it? You go through all our games, how many chances we created.
I think our response and play after the red card is a separate thing in the sense of how poor that was for me. The response to that red card, if we're going to discuss it now, was really, really bad in terms of how we didn't implement ourselves on the game. I know we had injuries. I know we had how many lads from the academy on the pitch by that point, but we just didn't take control. And the lack of shots we got away with that, 15, 20 minutes, really? Probably over 20 minutes, actually, with the amount of added time we had in the end. I think that is what caused a lot of Saints fans to maybe come away from that game more annoyed than they probably would have been if there hadn't been that red card and that spell of, right, we've got a chance here.
I'll tell you what I did like, though, the fact that Castiglione and James were pushed on Rolf as well. But I think Zane came on and Zane played that anchor role, and it was quite, apparent that the ball was given to him as the first release, and then it was him to either crack on or find his range of passing. I think we were unfortunate in so much that we did try, and the endeavour was absolutely there. The movement, I think, let us down in the second half, especially with that man advantage. I think there's a little bit of sort of inexperience up to that point. Quick mention about Charles. I like the fact he's getting into those positions, but you're dining out really on 4 goals against a very poor Hayes and Yedding side in a non-league game. You've got to be putting those away, at least hitting the target like he did against Chesham. Then what happens is people can come in and mop up. The first one in the first half, he's got to be scoring that. And I think if he really wants to elevate himself to the next level, he's got to be putting those away. No real criticism because he is getting into those positions, and hopefully the relationship between he and Jeffers is going to improve. What I would say is that we're really working hard, and I think that is evident. Monday you can see the players, they were out on their feet, they were really pushing, but it's the same result. And you don't want to get into that environment where losing becomes a formality, because it's really hard to get out of that rut, especially when the games don't get any easier. What I would say, I thought that one mistake aside, I thought Gautier and Bowery at the back were good, very, very good. I thought, the Dorking forwards, they're absolute cart horses, but they're experienced cart horses and they know what they're doing. The elbows here and there to dig into the ribs. We were down that end, Jake, weren't we, in the first half? We could see all the little nigs, the niggles and the elbows and whatever. So for Gautier and Bowery to sort of come out of that brave, but again, we come away with nothing, Tabs, and we have to reset. And again, our old friend injuries have reared their massively ugly head, and hopefully we need to address that, maybe in the loan market, maybe getting players back fit, but we'll see how we get on.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. I've got to give credit to the back four because it was changed due to injuries and other absentees. And they stood up very well. They did a very good job indeed. So no real criticism of them. Criticism of Nobby, I'm afraid, again. No, that substitution. Just for our time. Nick Ralph coming on for Iffy Allen. Why? Why not Zane Banton? You need an experienced head out there. We didn't need another kid out there. And that was so unfair on Ralph to put him in that situation. It wasn't his debut, by the way. His debut... Our Senior Cup final 5 years ago, against Bournemouth when the old gunslinger scored Wood's winner. So that's his first game since then. And on Monday he became the 400th player to represent us in National League South when he came on there. But I think it should have been Banton on there because when you're bringing Meeks on again later, another young, inexperienced at this level, it may explain why we created precious little late on in the game. As I was sending off, I've got some sympathy for Bobby Joe Taylor, because you're playing football, a ball bounces, you challenge for it. All right, he stuck a leg out, his studs are up. There was no malice there. He didn't mean to catch Kieran. I thought a yellow card would do, but the way the game is nowadays, he's going to get a red. What was worse and despicable was the booking of Ralph. At the time, we could see it was a clear dive by Niall McManus. That's not what Mark White said after the game, but even naked eye could see it's a dive, and it's highlighted on our videos 3 times for highlights. Nowhere near him. And McManus, having already been booked, should have been received a second yellow card for diving and cheating, whatever you want to call it, and he should have been sent off, and Ralph should have been left alone. That brings us on to the referee. Before the game, I was asked about the referee and details on him, so I spilled off a load of stuff, and then find they changed the referee, and it wasn't Nick Dunn, it was Gary Parsons. We had him 3 times before. No real issues. I don't know what you thought of him. I thought he had an absolute nightmare.
Oh, this is a rare time. We all agree, I think, on the referee, Dave. Wasn't his best display, I think it's fair to say. He was a bit all over the place. Was it a corner for their
No way.
goal?
No way.
I mean, I know we should have defended it. We know that, but it shouldn't be in a corner in the first place. It was so obvious, wasn't it? I mean, City players were absolutely furious when that was given. And I thought he didn't inspire me with much confidence for the refereeing profession on Monday.
For me, he played the Nick Rodis role, where he really barely moved out the centre circle. I mean, bless him. I think he struggled at times. The pace was quite frenetic, especially when they went down to 10 men talking, and we were sort of trying to really push them back, and the game got a bit quicker. He did his best, bless him. Look, it's easy for us to sit there with pint in hand to sort of, criticise the speed in which the referee has to police the game. But ultimately, is that what cost us? I mean, poor decisions, they come and go, but ultimately you have to deal with those as players on the pitch, and we didn't do that.
He did poor big decisions was a problem. I don't defend players normally when they're booked for dissent, but I will defend Michael Johnson on this occasion. Whatever he called the referee after giving the corner that led to that goal was fully justified. And
there's nothing compared to what you called him, Tam. So let's go. Let's not start throwing stones me off fruit, because
the booking of Gio Risulu, could not see that at all. What that was about. And then we've already talked about Ralph, just a nonsense decision. The only one that was justified from our lot was Zane Banton. There we go. Anything else to add on the game?
I think you talked about that subs there. It's a shame that Iffy Allen had to come off. I thought he was doing okay on that side. He was doing a reasonable job. Maybe getting forward wasn't the perfect display, but defensively, for a man who's probably more attacking, actually was doing quite well. And I thought him coming off really did actually have a massive impact. And like you said, Dave, it's a shame Zane didn't come on. We've seen Zane play there last season, especially. Most of us don't like Zane in the wing-back role, but in an emergency, I think you can rely on him to do that responsible job, especially when you're going to have Gautier on sort of his left-hand side on that centre-half role. And unfortunately, that inexperience sort of just cost us there in the end. I think we should mention as well, Kieran Gautier. I think it's fair to say he took one for the team with that red card challenge. It was like a horror film, wasn't it? The amount of blood coming from his face by the end.
He could have changed his shirt. Well, he could have had Sean Jeffers' shirt, because Dawkins spent all afternoon trying to get it off his shirt. So they could have given it to Kieran. The amount of tugging and pulling they did on him, they got away with every single time. Didn't get pulled up once. It was shocking.
Every team does now. Ever since that Hemel red card mid last season, most teams or referees don't really give anything against Sean, and most teams have clued onto it, haven't they?
Yeah. Wonderful. Right. We got to talking. When we went there a couple of years ago, when they were at our level, they had segregation in there, none of us were happy about, and they still got it. They should accept they're on a downward spiral, having been relegated last year. You don't have segregation in National League South. A game against us, you don't need it. But when you go to their website and it says we're going to get a bit behind the bottom goal as away fans, so at least you can see down the pitch. No, they stuck us down the side, so you couldn't see one corner of the pitch. It totally blocked out. We could see where McManus dived. We could see that far up the line, but we couldn't see further down there. That It's unacceptable treatment of away fans. Now, our fans at kick-off and early on, the chanting was superb. The support was superb. Then they started chucking this vile chanting towards Mark Wright. It was vile, it was unnecessary, not needed. And of course, he replied in kind at the final whistle. His gesticulating at the final whistle would have got him into trouble further up the league. It wasn't obscene gesticulating, but it could have been seen as inflammatory. But what our lot were thinking of chanting that lot, I just don't know.
I think we're going to be very careful about the wording that we use here, because unlike the fans on Monday, it was a certain sort of age of fans that were sort of singing this. We've had issues with this in the past, haven't we? Last season, the unnecessary chanting, the homophobic, sexual orientation of some of the chants. There's no need for it. What I'm not entirely happy about, there are club lapdogs sitting in the stand, and they are suggesting that it's the older supporters of long-term fans that we go to games with that may be trying to instigate this. That's just cowardly. To make those sort of accusations behind the safety of their keyboard is absolutely, utterly out of order. And hopefully they will have time to think about that and retract their comments, because it was absolutely outrageous. It's not up to us to police the good part of 35, 40 young fans at the game. The stewards were there. They did nothing. If the lapdogs in the stand and the club officials, if they heard it, they did nothing either. There were representations there from the trust and also volunteers of the club. No one said a single thing. So to sort of sit there and throw stones at us when all we were doing is our full-throated appreciation of the fans, of the team, very, very dangerous and unnecessary, because, okay, you've got your place at the top table in the clubhouse, doesn't mean you need to sit there and sort of throw mud and slur the name of all fans under a general umbrella. Look, the chants weren't great. They weren't great at all. But, Jake, you said it on Monday, you reap what you sow, right? The club have made themselves now into this situation where come down and, you are surrounded by alcohol, and you can really use that to sort of, kick your way through to the final whistle. You are promoting yourselves to a certain demographic. And when that demographic comes, and I'm led to believe that quite a lot of them are supporters of our Hertfordshire brethren from Vicarage Road as well, you have to take with that their language, their actions, and everything that comes with it. It's not great. We don't encourage it. We don't want it. We'll have their fans, we'll have their support, but we don't want that sort of chant. But how do you go about it now? The club have been made aware. Us fans who have been tarnished with this, we have told club officials last season on numerous occasions, it's not up to us to police it, but don't tarnish us all with the same brush. It's cowardly and hugely detrimental to the team and the club as a whole.
Jake, anything to add?
Well, I don't. Did I say that we reap what we sow? I don't remember saying that. It may have been me. But I think I was going to say that. I think, was it 2 seasons ago, we had quite a few issues at Clarence Park, especially, and the club did put something out then, and it did seem to go away a little bit. It's a shame to see it return on Monday. Hopefully, it'll be addressed in whatever way is required. On the ground itself, Dave, I think your point's fair. Wasn't a great match day experience, was it? At all? Yeah, being crammed in there. I think I saw someone post on Twitter. We had 120 there on Monday, so really good away support. I think we caught Dorking out, but they weren't particularly prepared for us with one person on the turnstile and most of the terracing shut. So yeah, not a great experience. And yeah, the stuff off the pitch unfortunately takes away from. Well, it's just. On the pitch, it wasn't great, was it, on Monday for a lot of it? But it does take away from the positives that we did have in that first half and display, unfortunately.
Most of the terracing shut. I'd love to have some terracing down there, Jake. There's nothing on the far side.
Yeah.
Right. The other chance as well. Not be out. I don't think that's another sexual orientation gag. I think it was against the manager. His support is waning. There's no two ways about it. No doubt there's others at the club who are happy with him there. But you look at our record. Last 13 National League South games, we've won once. Nobby in his last 11 league games, drawn 2, lost 9. 2 points out of 33. Nobby in his last 21 league games, won 3, drawn 6, lost 12. 15 points in 21 games, relegation form. City, our last 7 home league games, we've lost 6 of them. Are there going to be any changes made at any time? Or are we going to keep being told, yeah, it's getting better. We look better against Dorking. Are we in safe hands?
I think it's still too early into the season. I think to be talking about getting rid of a manager, it's not even the end of August yet. I think it's a very modern football thing, actually. I mean, look at the Championship and League One. There's already been a couple of sackings and mutual agreements to depart. One of them was after one game, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I think it's an aspect of football in the last 10 years that isn't particularly enjoyable. We had one supporter tweet us and ask, what are our thoughts on the mixed reaction to David Noble at the end of the game? And they said that they personally thought it was harsh just to blame Noble and have that the fans, I think, again, maybe younger fans, chanting for Noble out. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, a lot of people at the club weren't happy with him coming back in the first place, so he's starting from a bad point. And with it just continuing to nosedive from the end of last season, nothing's changed that way. But yeah, people are going to call for him to go. Of course they are. But I think we said at the time, a lot of people, supporters I spoke to anyway, did. Club had a chance to clear out, if not when Nobby went in January, certainly at the end of the season. Like John Meeks wasn't the answer, but never likely to be the answer. And his record just got worse and worse as the season went on, unfortunately. Harry Wheeler's in the back room as well. Well, we know what his record was with us before and also with Maidstone. You know, we're not talking of a successful group here and building a good team. I don't know. Can they find a formula to get the best out of these players and they live up to their billing? I don't know, but we can only go by the evidence of what we've seen. And you're struggling for encouragement. It mainly comes Monday because we had a much changed team, people out of position, younger players in there. So you're a bit more lenient towards them. But the bottom line is we created virtually nothing.
I think for a club that is so hell-bent on looking at data and stats analysis, Tavs, your breakdown of the results under Nobby's tenureship, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? What I would say is I agree. Look, did I want him to come back? No, not really. But he's here now, and we've supported him. But what I would say, he's probably got until the first round of it, or the first qualifying round of the cup. Sort of Lawrence, I'm led to believe, Jake, you're going to back me up on this. He wasn't happy with the performance against Chesham. You know, it's not what we need or want, given the fact that the club have increased their spending over the course of summer and brought in some good players. That is fact. What is also fact is that we're not having a return on that investment. And something's got to change sooner or later. It's a lot easier to change one manager than it is to change, 15, 16 players. But that said, is it too early to mug him off? I think so. Let him have a chance. There were positives there against Dorking. And hopefully we can get our first team players back. We've had some injuries in key positions, so let's see how that pans out. Ultimately, he's going to have to delve into the transfer market or the loan market to get that quality back in, because we can't be relying. I mean, to be fair, Safari looked as though he'd been shot or abducted by aliens, as you say, Tavs. Alan's going to be out for a bit. Gautier needs to be nursed back. Partington, he's out. You can't fit Rizzulo and Banton in the same team, apparently, nor Deadfield and Payne. All these questions got to be asked by one person, and that's the manager. Let's see how far along the line he gets to actually make those sort of changes.
Of course, we can't even speculate on the team for Saturday at Farnborough or next Tuesday at Tunbridge, because the club doesn't keep you informed of players' injuries, players' unavailability. So there's no point us really guessing at a team, because some of these players we're guessing at may not be available. And supporters have got a right to know, but they're not told.
Yeah, that feeds into another question we had was, do we have to sign some loanees to cope with the current injury crisis, or do we keep relying on the academy?
Who better And to comment on this about our lonely expert, Mr. D. Tavener. Off you go, fella.
Yeah, get Glenn McConnell back. It was all solved, isn't it?
Hey!
Yeah. Okay, I think you know the answer on that one.
I mean, we heard whispers that we were close to signing Hank Loney of a centre half last week from a League Two team, but that obviously didn't proceed. So, I mean, I presume we'll see some this week, even if they're just the initial 28-day loans, just in terms of injury cover, I'd have thought, because we are really struggling to get mainly sort of any sort of defence out there.
Well, we said it. People saying about how good his side is. We said it early in the season. There is no strength in that squad, and now it's being borne out, is it not? You look at that bench: James Bone, Marlow Goff. Nothing against them. Sam Meeks, Nick Ralph. That's your bench at Dorking because you got what 4 players not available. That squad has got no depth at all for it to do anything at this level other than just about survive.
Absolutely spot on. That is a bench if you want to be challenging in the Southern Prem. But this isn't that. And to be honest with you, unless things change, attitudes or application changes, that's where we're going to be heading, Tabs.
Yeah. I think on the Nobby situation as well, I think worth mentioning that a couple of the players came over at the end, didn't they, on Saturday, and did try to speak to fans and say, don't be chanting Nobby out. You know, we don't want that. We're all behind him. So I think that's another thing as well in the whole mix. And I think, like we said, we want Nobby to succeed, don't we? So we're certainly not Nobby out on this podcast. We want him to succeed. We want him to win things with City. And who knows? We go win at Farnborough on Saturday, and suddenly everything looks a little bit rosier, doesn't it? That's the stupid thing about football. I know we haven't won in our first 5, but get our first victory on Saturday and follow it up with a decent performance on Tuesday, and it could be a totally different story this time next week.
Do you want one final story from Dorking?
No, well, I don't like all your stories are too negative.
Yeah, hang on a minute. He's giving us up.
I left the ground with Colin today. When you leave the away end, you go behind the back of the stands and off towards the town. And Dorking's a lovely town, a lovely old town, bit of quality. But you walk straight into a car park, which ain't so great. Anyway, you're going behind the back of the stands, and there's 3 big windows up there, and they're all open.
We saw you.
And total silence. Total silence, except for one voice. Kept effing this, effing that about the crosses, quality of the crosses into the box being poor. And it's just non-stop. Well, we thought that's Mark White. And the Dorking supporters said, no, that's the away dressing room. And it was Nobby. He was on the right go. So one of our supporters, he goes up to the window. We still love you, City. He didn't get a response. He goes back a minute later. We go again, City. We're with you, blah, blah, blah. And his voice comes out. I think it was expletive in it, and said, I'm trying to give a team talk. So back comes the reply. And it's got to be the quote of the season. Well, shut the window then, Nobby, you knobhead. And suddenly, slam, the windows were shut. And it was entertaining. Maybe not the entertainment we were looking for, but it was entertaining.
To be fair, if the fan in question said it in that voice, then I would probably have the exact same response to it. But I mean, yeah, we saw it. But high passion after a heated contest. It was unfortunate, and to be fair, the Dorking fans who we approached after the game, they were very gracious. They were welcoming, but I think what you're seeing there is the frustrations of that afternoon's endeavour. Because, I mean, to be fair, whoever thought about putting the changing rooms with those windows right on the main exit way past all of the fans on the way out. Not good planning, but look, I'm glad to see a bit of passion from Nobby because we don't see a lot of it in the post-match. So I welcome that, to be fair.
Well, it used to be like that down the park, didn't it? You walk on that bit of land behind the main stand and the railway station.
Yeah.
And people used to stand there and listen to the entertaining half-time team talks. Very good. Well, a couple of stats for you. The Chesham game was our 650th in National League South, including the playoff games. And the Hornchurch game was our 1,000th Tuesday game. There you go. That's me done.
That's great stuff.
Well, it's not actually. We've got 2 games coming up.
I know. I was going to say that. Do we have to?
Farnborough won their first 3, lost their last 2. Good time to play them.
It's not been a happy hunting ground there, particularly in recent years. Last year's display actually there was really, really bad from what I remember. I mean, it was we took the lead inside. It was that mad spell where there was really early goals in our games, and I think we took the lead inside 2 minutes. Might even been a minute, to be honest. And then that's when the afternoon peaked. We were really bad after that. So it's not been a happy 100 ground. Quite a few bad memories in recent years. So, Farnborough came out with chaps looking good, didn't they? But they've just struggled a little bit. And we ran into some Tonbridge fans on the way home from Dorking, actually, on Monday, who were on their way home from Farnborough themselves. And they were saying that Farnborough weren't particularly impressive at all. Tonbridge were fairly comfortable in the end. And that they expected us to go there and cause Farnborough a few troubles. So, there you go, a bit of hope.
Have you got hope for Saturday, Lee?
Always. How long that lasts, Dave, I don't know, mate. I think it's going to be reliant on what sort of team we can get out. Injuries are going to be key to all of this because we can't mask the fact. Going back to the Dorking game, you can see that Dorking, they really worked that side where we had Gautier and Ralph down that side, and they worked us brilliantly there, and they knew what we were doing. But ultimately, we don't know what team we're going to get out. If we were to have a perceived full-strength side, I'd maybe be a little bit more confident. But ultimately, I don't know is the answer because we are a Jekyll and Hyde at the minute. And yes, performances were improved, but it's the results that are going to matter now.
Yeah. Again, it's another game. The players have got to stand up. They're not running out of time. It's ridiculous to say that. But 1 point from 5, it's our joint worst start in our history. The 2 previous times, we've only had 1 point from 5 games.
That is a bloody stat. I love that stat. You should get on a T-shirt, mate. Is it joint worst start in our history?
Yeah, twice before we've had 1 point from 5 games. But on both those seasons, it was the season after promotion when we were undercooked. We didn't have a side ready for the high level. We've been at this level for 10 years now. There's no excuse for this start. None whatsoever.
Wow. So predictions then?
Predictions. Well, I am more for Saturday than I am Tuesday because Sean Shields is in fine form for Tunbridge at the moment. He 2 great games he had against us last year, and he walked off with their Player of the Year award. He didn't win it; he just walked off with it. No, he did win it, and he's got 4 goals this season. I think he's going to cause us problems on Tuesday. If you're watching, Sean, Ian Ridley said to say hello. You were one of his favourite City players. Right, Farnborough. I think we could excel and possibly get a point. 2-2. We're going to be free flowing.
I'm going to go 1-0 and just, that's goals, not, that's not corners either. The Mighty Saints, I think we prevail. I think this is more out of hope than it is anything else. So, 1-0 Saints.
Dave, you stole my 2-2, so let's go for an old classic 2-1 Saints.
What was that, Dave?
2-1 Saints, season starts here. Come on.
Right, on Tuesday, I don't see us getting away so lightly down there. Little trip down to Kent, getting dark in the second half. Players get nervous.
What on earth?
Especially if you're like skulking around, mate, in the shadows.
Let's go for a 3-0 Tunbridge.
3-0.
Jesus Christ, man! I mean,
they're only 8
barely
points
September.
Yeah, but lost.
All the league is probably 8 points ahead of us, Jake. You know what I mean? I don't. 2-1 Tunbridge, and I hate that.
I'm going to go 1-1.
But you always find that nice big fat fence, Jake.
Hey. Thank you.
Right, it's a good one. We have plenty of plenty of talking points. So we're done.
Lee, we want to say hello to a new international branch, don't we?
Yes.
Saints fans. Well, first of all, we had the Norwegian fans down this weekend. We lost both games as usual. So thank you for coming, lads. But please stop coming because we lose whenever you turn up. And then, yeah. Red. It makes much more sense, doesn't it? And then also, viewer of the podcast, Ben Griffiths, spoke to some Boston-based Saints supporters and wanted us to say hello to them. They set up a Saints supporters group out there. I think there's a couple of them. Goodness knows why.
Boston, Massachusetts, not Boston, Lincolnshire.
No, it's not Paul Bastock. They've been to the last 3 games. Again, they've seen 3 defeats. So another winning start for another new international group of supporters. But welcome, fair play for supporting us from all the way over there. And welcome back anytime. And hopefully next time you come over, it's a little bit better.
Well, it's funny, actually. We had a new subscriber this morning. We're pleased to welcome him on board. And it's good to see that he's gone over to the right side and come out of the dark. So I hope he enjoys it. And talking to him Ridley, he said, look at that. 2 clubs I was chairman of. Look at the state of them now. St Albans City and Weymouth. All I can say is, Ian, can you go and have a spell at Bournemouth and Dorking, please, as well?
Brutal stuff from D Tavener. But
I think we need to end this now before it gets any worse. Right. Yeah. Thank you as always for joining us. Podful of Saints on Twitter. Email in the description below. And we will speak to you again next week. I'm not going to say the Saints are going to win all the games because it hasn't worked at all this season. So we'll see you again next week after 2 hopefully decent performances from the Saints. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.